Namaste.
Namaste.
I'm your host Deepika Upadhyay, and today let's start our journey to the frontline states of Northeast India via rails to the capitals Imphal and Aizawl connected to the nation. Let us explore the stories behind India's most transformative infrastructure project. Railway connections to Imphal in Manipur and Aizawl in Mizoram are not just engineering feats, they are promises fulfilled, lives uplifted, and region is finally brought into the national mainstream. These tracks symbolizes connectivity, commerce, culture, and the most importantly, confidence. To unpack the scope of significance and this historic development, we are joined by Dr. Naresh Bana, an acclaimed global public-private partnership advisor who brings a macroeconomic and policy lens to Northeast infrastructure development. Dr. Bana, why is connecting Imphal and Aizawl by rail considered a landmark achievement for Northeast India, not just technically, but for the Northeast as a whole?
Deepika ji, connecting Manipur and Mizoram states by rail is considered a landmark achievement for Northeast India due to its transformative impact on regional integration, economic development, and national security. These capitals were among the last in India without rail connectivity. Their inclusion marks a decisive step towards bridging the historical isolation of the Northeast. The rail access to these regions will significantly reduce travel time and transportation costs, which will foster trade, tourism, and mobility for local communities. It also enables smoother movement of essential goods, agriculture produce, and industrial inputs, giving boost to local economies. For border states like Manipur and Mizoram, improved logistics strengthens national security and enhances border management with Myanmar. Further to this development, it aligns with India's Act East policy, facilitates stronger economic and cultural ties with Southeast Asia through planned transnational corridors like Indo-Myanmar-Thailand Highway or Trans-Asian Railway. The railway expansion also is a symbol of inclusivity, ensuring that remote and hilly regions of Northeast India benefit from the national growth. In essence, rail connectivity to Imphal and Aizawl is not just an infrastructure upgrade, it is a strategic, economic, and emotional milestone that enhances unity, prosperity, and resilience in a geopolitically sensitive and culturally rich part of India.
That truly sets the tone. Railways as a bridge to inclusion and identity for the Northeast. Sir, you worked across India's most challenging terrains. What were the main geographical or engineering challenges in constructing these lines in the hilly region?
Constructing railways in a hilly terrain is always a challenge, and Northeast India is no exception. That's why lines to Imphal and Aizawl posed major geographical and engineering challenges due to the rugged mountainous terrain, fragile geology, and most of the time characterized by steep gradients, deep gorges, and frequent landslides. That made alignment planning and construction extremely complex. Engineers had to design routes that minimized sharp curves and excessive slopes, requiring numerous tunnels, viaducts, and bridges. For instance, the Jiribam Imphal railway line involves over 50 tunnels including one of the longest railway tunnel of India, tunnel number 12, which is exceeding 10 kilometers. Building stable tunnel structure through soft soil as obtained in northeast India and seismic prone zones demanded advanced tunnel boring and reinforcement techniques. The region's heavy monsoons further complicated the work, often causing flooding, erosion, and delays. Additionally, transporting construction material and heavy equipment through remote and challenging terrain with limited road connectivity was a logistical hurdle. Ensuring minimal environment impact was another big challenge in these ecologically fragile and sensitive zones, and addressing land acquisition and community concern added further complexity to the project. Despite these challenges, engineers leveraged modern surveying, tunneling technologies, and innovative bridge design to overcome natural barriers. The successful completion of these lines reflects a blend of technical prowess, perseverance, and strategic planning, making it one of the most ambitious infrastructure effort in the region's recent history.
Clearly, the terrain may be tough, but the engineering resolve was tougher. Dr. Bana, could you walk us through some of the key features of the new railway lines to Imphal and Aizawl, routes, lengths, and key stations as well?
Interesting. Let me talk about the key features then. On the Baravi-Sairang route, which connects Aizawl, it's a single line, broad gauge, from Baravi, which is on the Assam border, to Sairang, which is near Aizawl, and it's about 51.3 kilometers long. It has 4 stations, namely Hortoki, Konpoi, Molkham, and the terminus at Sairang. And it has about 48 tunnels, 55 major and about 87 minor bridges, 5 ROBs and 6 RUBs. The tallest pier of bridge number 196 stands at 104 meter tall. Coming to Imphal Jiribam route, the length is 111 km, connecting Jiribam to Imphal via Tupul, Khongsang, Noni, and Imphal. There are about 10 stations including Khongsang, Noni, Tupul, Phaing, and Imphal. There are 62 kilometers of tunnels plus 11 major and 134 minor bridges, several ROBs and RUBs. These routes traverse extremely challenging hilly terrain, requiring extensive tunneling and bridging to connect the capitals to India's main rail network.
Thank you, sir. That gives a solid understanding of the scale and scope of these lines. Sir, let's talk timelines. How long did it take to build these rail links, and what were some major milestones in the process?
These rail links actually have been in planning for quite some time, and actually it took over a decade to build after the construction actually commenced. Like in Jiribam Imphal line, the construction began in 2008, and Jiribam to Khongsang section was opened in 2016, which is almost 9 years before now. And trial run to Hongsang started in 2022, and India's tallest railway pier is on this line at 141 meters. That has been completed, and the entire rail link up to Imphal is expected to complete within next few months, with the overall project being completed, and will scheduled services will start maybe by end of this year or early next year. Whereas on Bhairavi Sarang, that is connecting Aizawl, the everything else is completed except the formal inauguration, and the completion of track laying happened in 2023, and the trial runs and station commissioning happened in late 2024. And Mizoram's tallest pier bridge, as I mentioned, is 104 meter tall pier, and both projects faced delays due to monsoons, and certainly COVID-19 disruptions were there, and the difficult tunneling through soft, unstable terrain. Despite setbacks, they mark major milestone in India's push for inclusive development and strategic connectivity in the Northeast.
Impressive milestones indeed, each one a chapter in the making of modern Northeast India. Dr. Bana, bringing railways to remote states is a game changer. How will this rail connectivity benefit local people in Manipur and Mizoram, especially in the rural and border areas?
As we have already underlined the immense benefits this rail line is going to bring to these two states, let me further elaborate that once this connectivity is fully operational, there will be transformative benefits to the people of Manipur and Mizoram, and especially in rural and border areas. It will significantly improve access to markets, healthcare, education, by reducing travel time and transportation costs. Farmers and artisans will be able to transport their produce and goods more efficiently, expanding their reach and income. Tourism will receive a boost, creating jobs in hospitality and local services. The rail link will also enable better access to government schemes, disaster relief, and emergency services. We will remember that there have been cases when connectivity to Imphal has been disrupted for months together due to agitation in the neighboring state or on the access roads. So this rail line is going to provide an alternate and most effective connectivity there. And for youth, it opens up opportunities for education and employment in other parts of India more conveniently. In border areas, the presence of railway infrastructure will improve logistics and movement for security forces as well, enhancing national security and regional stability. Overall, it will bridge the gap between the Northeast and the rest of the India, fostering greater social inclusion and economic development.
Wonderful insights. Connectivity truly begins transforming lives when it reaches the grassroots. Sir, Northeast is a gem that remains unexplored by tourists. How might this rail expansion boost tourism in Manipur and Mizoram?
As I mentioned, tourism and the related industry and infrastructure is going to be big beneficiary. So significantly it's going to boost the tourism, and that is because the accessibility will become much easier and much assured. And these two states are very rich in culture and scenic beauty. And until now, you would appreciate the long and difficult road journeys were a deterrent for many travelers. I have myself been in these states during my service, and I have seen how difficult sometimes the road travel becomes due to landslides, due to various other problems. But with rail connectivity, reaching destinations like Loktak Lake in Manipur, the only lake which has floating island cultivation, or Mizoram Hills. How many of you possibly know that there is a beautiful resort just 2.5 hours away from here, right near the Aizawl capital city? All those will be accessible, and tour operators can offer more structured packages, and the inflow of domestic tourists is expected to rise. Local festivals such as Chapchar Kut in Mizoram and Sangai Festival can attract larger audiences. It will promote cultural exchange and economic activity. Homestays will become more profitable. Ecotourism ventures will start happening, and handicraft markets in rural areas tend to gain, providing livelihoods to local communities. Moreover, improved infrastructure builds traveler confidence. It encourages repeat visits and long-term tourism growth happens. In essence, the rail connectivity will open the door to Manipur and Mizoram to emerge as mainstream tourist destinations within India's diverse landscape.
A rail map that turns into a tourist map. That's the promise of this expansion. Dr. Bana, from an economic standpoint, what changes can traders, small businesses, and farmers expect from this new connectivity?
You see, with the new rail connectivity, the traders, the small business, and farmers in Manipur and Mizoram can expect a major economic uplift. Transportation of goods will become faster, safer, and more cost effective. It would reduce dependency on long, unreliable routes. The farmers can send their perishable and other goods and flowers to broader markets in time, ensuring better prices and less wastage. Local artisans and small manufacturers will gain access to new markets outside the region, improving sales and encouraging production growth. Traders can import essential commodities and raw materials more easily and reliably at lower freight costs, reducing overheads and increasing profit margins for the local entrepreneurs. Additionally, rail-linked towns will likely see new business hubs, warehouses, agro-processing units, and it will create job opportunities and stimulate rural economies. Overall, the railway will integrate local economies with national supply chains and enable more sustainable growth and financial inclusion for communities that were previously isolated.
Absolutely, markets thrive when movement becomes seamless and predictable. Sir, were there any concerns raised, environmental, cultural, or social, during the execution of these projects?
Deepika ji, like it happens for all mega projects, wherever the communities are affected, there are concerns. The concerns for environment, the concerns for society and culture, and an elaborate social impact assessment and environment impact assessment is undertaken. And all the concerns which are raised during the SIA and EIA studies, they are very structured and methodical solutions are undertaken, and this project was no exception. There were cultural, social, and other concerns were raised, and both regions are ecologically very sensitive with dense forests, fragile hills, and rich biodiversity. Concerns included deforestation, soil erosion, disruption of wildlife habitats, and increased vulnerability of landslides due to heavy construction and tunneling. Now, socially, if you see, the land acquisition was the major problem, and there was a lot of resistance in some areas because it affected their agriculture and homes of indigenous communities. As such, the area being very hilly, the plains or the agricultural lands are limited, so concerns were more vociferous and more intense. And there were apprehensions about displacement, loss of livelihood, and inadequate compensation for rehabilitation. In Mizoram and Manipur, where tribal identity and cultural heritage are deeply rooted, communities expressed fears of cultural dissolution and demographic shifts due to increased migration and external influence. In Mizoram and Manipur, where tribal identity and cultural heritage are deeply rooted, communities expressed fears of cultural dilution, demographic shifts, because they apprehended people from other parts will flood the region and external influence will happen. There were activists and environmental groups which called for better safeguards and impact assessment. Detailed studies and assessments helped, and authorities took measures like having most of it under tunnels so that surface disruption is minimum, and implemented compensation and resettlement policies in detail and meticulously, and though the concerns still remain among some stakeholders.
That's a valuable perspective. Progress must always walk hand in hand with sensitivity. Let's step back, Dr. Bana, for a broader view. What role does this connectivity play in India's Act East policy and regional diplomacy?
These two states are on our eastern border, and Act East policy is most prominently visible here. And this connectivity will play a significant role in advancing our initiatives under Act East policy and regional diplomacy. By linking the Northeast to the rest of India and to Southeast Asia via Myanmar, these rail lines will strengthen physical and economic integration with neighboring countries. They support planned transnational corridors like the India-Myanmar-Thailand Highway and Kaladan Multimodal Project, boosting cross-border trade and connectivity. Improved infrastructure in border states enhances India's presence in a region of growing geopolitical interest, and that counters China's influence and reinforces partnership with ASEAN nations. This rail expansion also facilitates cultural exchange, tourism, people-to-people contact, which is vital for soft diplomacy. Domestically, it demonstrates India's commitment to inclusive development, strengthening the Northeast's role as a bridge to Southeast Asia rather than just being frontier states. Overall, this connectivity is a critical link in transforming India's Look East policy into a proactive and sustained Act East engagement strategy.
A vital point, railways here are not just transport lines but strategic corridors. Coming to our last question, sir. As we look ahead, what's next for railway development in the Northeast? Are there more such capital cities or regions in line for rail links?
Deepika ji, thanks to the recent connection to Aizawl, 4 of the 8 capitals now have rail links. That is Guwahati, Agartala in Tripura, Naharlagun, which is next to Arunachal capital, and Sairam, that is Aizawl. Next in queue is Imphal, which is almost done, and that's why we are discussing it here, and Kohima, which is likely to be done by 2029. Kohima is capital of Nagaland, and Shillong, the Tetelia Birnihart extension, has faced delays and local opposition with potential future extension to Shillong. Gangtok in Sikkim, the work is on, and 45 kilometers Sewok Rangpo line, almost 70% is complete, and the target is 2027, and future plans include connectivity right up to Gangtok and maybe even up to Nathula on Chinese border. And beyond capitals, network enhancement continues with doubling upgrade projects across Assam and international links to Bangladesh, Myanmar and Bhutan. If all goes well, by 2030, every northeast state should be rail connected. Dramatically, it will transform the region's accessibility and trade and commerce will flourish. At this point, I would also like to mention that the Trans-Asian Railway is also being pushed, and that includes a connectivity from Singapore to Istanbul in Turkey. In parts, it is already existing, and there is a whole lot of effort. It's being done under United Nations, so efforts are on to connect the gaps also, and that will also include these rail connectivities which are being built in India. Overall, India's northeast region and the rail rollout there is now moving from ambition to realization, linking more capitals, fostering socio-economic growth and strengthening national cohesion.
Inspiring to hear. The tracks laid today are truly just the beginning of what lies ahead. Thank you, Dr. Bana, for this enriching discussion. What we have seen in Imphal and Aizawl is not just the laying of tracks, but the laying of trust, of opportunity, of access. These rail lines are threads in the larger fabric of unity and growth, and a sign that India's development story is reaching every corner. To our listener, if today's conversation inspired you or taught you something new, please share and follow us for more insights into the stories behind India's growth. This is Deepika Upadhyay signing off. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and keep moving forward. Namaste.
Namaste.